So I wanted to introduce Praveen Raja, who's head of mobile, internet, iPhone, and advanced data services for Digi. Praveen. He has, maybe you can take that side. And he has over 10 years of experience in the web and mobile industry and was formerly the CTO of LifeLogger. Please welcome Heather Wee, who heads new media for Maxis. Joined Maxis in 2001 to expand the mobile data business, and now manages the mobile advertising services for Maxis. So if you can take the center, and please welcome Syahar, a good friend of mine, who's head of advertising and promotions for Malaysia Airlines, and he used to head the international marketing for Tourism Malaysia. So you get a practitioner's perspective. So I can, I obviously have a set of questions that I would fall back on. So should I get that started, and then. I'm sure there are some questions from the audience that we'd be more than happy to take, and we can take questions over Twitter. There are mics as we speak lurking around the audience. So does anybody from the audience want to start before I do? Anybody wants to go, or should I? I'll go first then, and then we'll let you guys think. So, Praveen, why don't we get going with you, since you're first in the line there. Right. So, tell me, what do you think from Digi's perspective? What have they been doing to encourage mobile internet usage?
I think there are a couple of things there. The first thing is, unlike what many people think, we don't really have a lot of people working behind mobile internet. So we're a very lean organization, and that also means we have a finite amount of time. What we've realized is we spend very little time today trying to cultivate or create content. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's mainstream stuff. Customers already know what they want. So our focus right now is really getting our customers to use the right devices. And that's the first thing. I think if you look at Steve's presentation just now on the number of smartphones, we project something around that number, perhaps even lower, depending on the definition of smartphones. So it's really about equipping customers with the right devices. And then once they have the right devices, it's about making it as easy as possible to get connected to the internet. A lot of our customers prior to this had to remember APN settings, had to remember how to configure their devices. Today we get rid of all those things. So the moment you put a Digi SIM card in there, you're connected to the internet. So it's very focused on a few things, but that's the one that will generate the largest volume for us.
Okay, great. And Heather, from your perspective, tell me, I mean, Maxis sort of was one of the early ones, right, in the whole mobile advertising space, if you will. So how is that, how do you see that evolving? How has that impacted your business, maybe your partner's business? How do you see this evolving?
Okay, well, it's been a very, how is it, a fruitful journey so far. I think being early adopters in the industry is never easy. But I won't call myself the early one, but one of the early ones, yes. I think Digi and Celcom also have played some roles in this. It's just that Maxis are more active than the others. So, but it's been a very different journey because we are doing things out of the box, things that is not typically from telco-centric, and understanding what the brands and the advertisers' needs are, yeah, and then fulfilling that. Yeah.
So from an advertiser's perspective, Syahar, right? I mean, how do you see this? What do you think has changed in the last 5 years in regard to airline customers, and how they are they what are they doing with Malaysia Airlines and mobile in specific?
Well, what's changed since the last 5 years? I think the fact that we're sitting here talking about mobile, that's a big change. I mean, it basically warrants, the growth of mobile marketing basically warrants our event here today. From an airline perspective specifically, we definitely have seen a growth in terms of mobile transactions, not only transaction, because for an airline, mobile is beyond just that sale of seat. It over and above that, it's also about the convenience of checking in to mobile, as well as checking out our flight status. So these things, it's not only good for us, because obviously distribution costs, operating costs is managed much better, but also, like I said earlier, it provides a convenience essentially to all of our guests, customers.
Okay. So, and you know, we'll start taking questions from the audience whenever the audience is ready. But I wanted to go back, Praveen, to the question that someone from the audience raised earlier. What can telcos like Digi, for instance, do to make sure that the mobile internet experience is the same in the Klang Valley and, you know, in the rest of the in the region? What could you potentially be doing, and how would you address something like that? What are the implications for advertisers?
Again, I think it's a few different components to get the right answer. You'll see that in most of our quarterly statements, we talk about the growth of 3G coverage, and very soon with LTE as well. The end goal is always to have 100% population coverage. But to have 100% population coverage means you've got to spend a lot of money. And that's the reality.
Sure.
The reality is some operators will decide to go into key market centers and expand the coverage. And the thing about the mobile internet experience is you can't just deploy one site and expect all your customers to be there. It has to be a contiguous experience in a very large area. So a lot of these customers are in their cars trying to access information. And as they move from one site to another, they expect to get that type of experience, a very good, consistent experience. So the other thing that we're trying to do now is we're expanding coverage, one, but we're also trying to set the right expectations in terms of what can you get from an internet experience with us. So you'll see that a lot of our products in the market today, especially those that are for the PC and for smartphones, we tell our customers you can expect a consistent, likely average speed of up to a certain limit. We don't overpromise you on what you can get, but it's fast enough for everything that you want to do. And it's a mantra that we believe in a lot in Digi, and we continuously try and sell that experience out there.
Okay, cool. Any questions from the audience? Anything that you guys wanted to get the panelists' views on? Seems to be a very shy group here. I could plow on, but any questions? And yes, sir. There's one right there. So if you just wait for the mic to come to you, which is now.
Hi, I'm Azhan from Maybank. Basically, there's a lot of competition now with respect to mobile internet. Particularly, Yes has come out, Blue Cube, and P1. And they've come out with different gadgets for mobile internet. And how does Digi and Maxis fare in terms of competing with these new devices like the Yes Huddle and things like that? Are those things, you know, going to be part of your development program at some point?
Go for it, Praveen.
Okay. Competition is always good. I know it keeps us up awake all the time. We've got a few colleagues of mine from Digi as well, and I know it just keeps us awake. So I think it goes back to the question of focus. If you look at most of our marketing campaigns today, we try to differentiate ourselves by focusing on what we know is the most immediate potential for us. Today we have, I think, over 8 million customers, and those 8 million customers carry a variety of phones. A percentage of them fall into the category of iPhones, Blackberries, Androids, but a majority of them have Symbian devices or Sony Ericsson devices. So if you're asking them to go out and buy a solution from one of the competitors that you mentioned just now, I don't think they'll get a good experience on their mobile. So for us, we are very focused on selling a very good internet experience on the mobile devices that you have today, without asking you to buy another device or things like that. Everything is provided on that SIM card.
Okay. So Stan Chu had a question, and you know, any one of you could take this. He says, what are the key factors crucial to help marketers speed up the adoption of using mobile in the communication efforts? So Syahar, do you want to have, and thank you, Stan, for the question.
I think what's key, our point of view at least, is to not look at mobile, as a marketer, not look at mobile independently. It's essentially another channel for us to push out our communication messages out to our audience. So it needs to be within the overall scheme of things, your overall channel strategy, your overall marketing strategy. And what's key, that, however, with mobile, yes, it does require very strong relevancy in terms of what message you're pushing out. So that is something that you should be paying close attention to in terms of how relevant of a message are you pushing out on which mobile platform to your audience. So, yeah.
Good. Heather, do you want to comment on that as well?
Well, yes, and just to add a few points of what Syahar is saying, is also relevancy is one of it, and also and how ready are you as a brand and as an advertiser? So you need to look at your own digital strategy and don't just rush into the game like everybody, like everyone is running into this game. So be ready and also relook at your what contents you want to reach out to your users, and for me, the rules is very simple. Start with very simple things. Start with things that you are very familiar with.
Okay, cool. Any other questions to follow up on that one? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Asri here from Fourth Screen. All right, delivering a rich user experience on mobile is not easy. Okay, tons of devices, many devices. But in case of, let's say, for example, for Malaysia Airlines, in customizing the best user experience for certain devices, how do you generate, or how do you come up with the idea to target specific mobile users and devices to give them the best user experience? Because different devices with different resolution screens, support for apps and so on. And that is the first question. I mean, how do you choose, how do you pick the biggest one? Secondly, my question is, which one do you prefer, apps or mobile website?
It's the classic question, isn't it? Apps or the web?
Let me answer the second question first in terms of apps and website. For Malaysia Airlines, we have both. We have an app called MH Deals, and we have a mobile site called MH Mobile. The app essentially is more in terms of, it's an augmented reality app that gives you, well, once you point your iPhone to a certain location, and if it's tracking Singapore, for example, what it will do, it will pull our lowest fare available at that point of time, flying from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore. So that's the app. It's more of a marketing tool for us to push out our promos. So then we have the other side, the site which is MH Mobile. With MH Mobile, I think what we did first was we essentially first focused on, okay, again, putting the audience, the customer into perspective first. What would they want out of an airline in terms of mobile? So obviously, in terms of purchasing a ticket would be one key one, as well as checking the flight availability. But the other one, which is key, is then checking in. So I can't elaborate that much in terms of the technicality side of it, because obviously we worked with a developer, one of our partners to develop both the site as well as the app. But we did not roll out a mobile site optimized for all devices. We again look back at what's the audience. So in terms of our audience that we would like to capture first to mobile are mainly are first the businessmen. So we rolled out the BlackBerry first, and then we moved on to the iPhone and Android. So then we basically, partly also because we want to get the learnings and see how is it performing and how can we optimize it better, how we can make it better essentially. But exactly how it was on the technical side, I can't answer that. It's done by the developers.
And also it's a great point you raised about sort of optimizing experience on different devices. And it just so happens that, you know, on Google at least, when you run campaigns, you can now select, you know, like if you wanted your campaign to appear only on tablets, the ads would get optimized automatically for tablets. And if you wanted to appear on iPhones, it would do just that. So, you know, what we're trying to do is enable that ecosystem just a lot more by making it very, very specific. It's come to the stage where you can actually target by carriers, sorry. So, you know, you could target customers just on a particular cell phone operator. So there's plenty of ways to do this in that regard. Any more questions from the audience before I sort of have one of mine in there? Any other questions? There's plenty on Twitter as well, so I'll be more than happy to read from here. Right, so there's one question again, Syahar, for you, and this is of course the golden question, right? Everybody wants to know this, and this is from you, Rajan, who says, "How do you plan when you come to advertising budget allocation?" So, you know, it's like giving your holy grail away. So,
I do not. Okay, Malaysia Airlines, we do not have an advertising budget just for mobile. Nor do we have an advertising budget just for digital. So we have an overall advertising budget. And like I mentioned earlier, like it needs to be looked at holistically. So for us then it's dependent on the brief. What are we trying to achieve out of this specific campaign? If mobile is one of the channels that will enable us to achieve our objective, then we will put a certain percentage on the mobile ads. But essentially, how I personally look at it is I try to not limit the scope or the ideas based on the budget. So if we determine that okay, mobile would be one of the key channels for this campaign, what are all the things that we can do in mobile? Let's look at what's the total cost, and then obviously budgets are not finite, so we'll scale it down based on priority. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? We've got plenty of questions over here on Twitter. I have a few more, but please feel free to raise your hands and participate, and a mic will be over to you very shortly. Any questions? If not, we'll read from Twitter again. So, I don't know, I mean, Praveen or Heather, maybe you may want to take a stab at this. So, this is from Christo, who's asking, what is the source of inspiration in terms of coming up with innovative mobile marketing concepts? So, what is the source of inspiration? Any one of you can take a stab at this.
Okay, I'll try. Basically, the inspiration is you guys. It's our consumers. It's what our consumer wants and what they are familiar with. So we started with something that they are familiar with. That's the messaging. So SMS, MMS. So these are the things that 100% of the phones can do. You don't need any special setting or whatsoever, or APN to send SMS. So that's where we start. And then we moved on to, web. Web is a substitute, well, it's I would say not a substitute, but a subsidy of your web. And, more and more phones are able to do browsing nowadays. So the next natural move is to move to mobile web, and then subsequently applications as and when necessary.
Okay. Praveen?
I think for us, it's, I agree with what Heather is saying as well. It's also got to do with what's in it for me. Mm-hmm. I think most of the marketing campaigns or the mobile marketing campaigns we do, we usually try to answer that question, really what's in it for me if you were in the customer's shoes and he has to go through a number of steps, a number of things to do, would you do it? And from there, you start to spin off ideas, and you work with partners to come up with the right solutions. So it's really not rocket science. It starts with very basic questions.
Sure. From a practitioner's perspective, Syahar, I mean, do you sort of wake up in the morning and sort of say, "Oh, this is fantastic. I dreamt of this last night." Is it like that, or is it more hard work than a flash of inspiration?
Definitely no. As with Heather and Puba mentioned, like it's definitely with the consumers, with our customers. What are they looking? As I mentioned earlier as well, it's in terms of it's all about them. What are they looking for, and what's the insights behind those consumers, and what do you deliver based on those insights, essentially.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? There are a couple that shot up. This must be a response. Yeah, you first, and then we'll get to the lady here.
Hi, my name is Zafrul from MotionWorks. Okay, so a lot of information and data about mobile being the most, receiving the most penetration. But I believe that mobile is also the most sacred and private device that we have, the most protected device that we have. I heard stories that if a husband goes to work and he leaves his mobile phone at home, he will rush back to get back his mobile phone because,
What does that say about the husband? Who else? Who's in the audience who can give some tips on that? Any of the young men? Sorry, please carry.
So even some of us have password even in our mobile devices that we don't want anyone to learn. So how do you do a campaign, and how do you penetrate something that everyone wants to keep very, very private?
Okay, that's very interesting, because I guess the inherent sort of premise of the question is that it's almost like you're pushing something at the consumer, versus, of course, I would encourage you to think of this from, consumers opting in. But it's a very interesting question. So who wants to take a stab at that? Syahar, Praveen?
Yeah, let me just...
Okay.
It's something that I'm trying to figure out myself. But, okay, perception aside, let's look at the facts. Response rate on mobile is definitely much greater than the response rate on PC. So that tells us that people are more receptive. Not only the response rate of say if you're running a mobile banner ad campaign, not only about the click-throughs on those banners, but those banners are also prompting more searches as well. So it's about that message that is being pushed out. I mean, we've seen it from our own figures, from our data, that whenever we push out a campaign on mobile, or actually this goes across all channels as well, it prompts more search, but we also have a spike in terms of mobile search whenever we run such campaigns. I think what's key, you're right to say, because mobile is something that's very personal. You don't like to be encroached. You don't want marketing messages to come out blindly. So as I mentioned earlier, relevancy is key here. So like what we do normally in terms of what is that product that we want to push out, the first thing that we'll do is in terms of how do we set up our targeting, either through the mobile networks or with my deals for Maxis, so on and so forth. So it starts with the targeting and how are we, which mobile platform, which mobile site, which networks are we going to target, what are the demographics or psychographics of the audience that we want to target, and that's what Sajith mentioned, you can also target based on mobile devices. And then creating a message or creative copy that is relevant to that audience. So because of that, the response rate becomes much greater, and it's not so intrusive because it is something that's relevant to me. It's something that I would be interested to check out more.
That's pretty fascinating. But there was a question here in front. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Amy. I'd like to ask all three of you, what is your most successful campaign delivered via mobile so far?
That's a good question. So maybe the silence, maybe the silence is more because they're thinking there's so many of them. Which one of them? Or it could be,
okay, let me
oopsie,
start.
I'm just wondering which one.
Malaysian Airlines have very successful mobile campaigns, I would say. And other than that, we have run many successful mobile campaigns. And for like opt-in base, you know, we see like response rate as high as like 15 to 17%, and average, you know, from 7%. So because the fact that we could accurately profile our users and send relevant advertisements or message to the users, that's why it harvests more interest, or, you know, so that's why I think even for the mobile banner, mobile display banner, because the fact that we could accurately target our users, the response rate is also between 4 to 9%. So that's what we see.
Okay. Praveen, your perspective.
Yeah, I think from Digi's perspective, there are a lot of campaigns that we do that run below the line. They may not be seen up front, but typically I think over the last 6 months, we've seen a lot more of our below-the-line marketing campaigns generate response rates in the range of 5 to 10%. And a lot of that has got to do with a change in mindset in terms of how we actually approach those campaigns. A few years ago, if you ask any marketer, at least in Digi, they would take 1 million SMSs and they would broadcast it out, right? And let's see what the hit rate is like. But we've since had a change. We now focus a lot more on crafting the right messages, testing this message versus another, and actually looking at the response rate. So it's actually a bit more science into it. We probably don't have a lot of case studies on rich media mobile marketing stuff, but a lot of the SMS and MMS-based campaigns are starting to generate a lot of good response rates for us. The call to action from that is critical. Getting people to click on a link via SMS is a whole lot easier than asking them to key in the address or to look for a QR code scanner. The SMS medium is still easy for a lot of customers.
Sure, do you want to take a quick stab?
It depends on how you define successful. I mean, for us, obviously, we would look more at our own properties to see whether that campaign was successful. So for an example, if which campaign gave us the highest return in terms of revenue or penetration on our mobile site, MH Mobile, then those would obviously be our big sales campaigns. So in those campaigns, we had some mobile, we had digital, obviously we had above the line. But I think what's key is that definitely it's about being available as whenever your customers is looking for you. So for example, if you're typing in the Malaysia Airlines URL on mobile, it will be redirected directly into our mobile site. So having that platform available, and it's the overall channel plan essentially is what drives that success. If you're talking about a specific initiative on mobile, I would say yes. The campaigns that we've been running with My Deals, Maxis, that has been progressing quite well. It has been giving us quite a high response rate. But the other thing is on search. I wouldn't say it's a campaign because we have an always-on search campaign or strategy. Only I think recently, towards the end of last year, was when we switched on the mobile. We switched on mobile, and that has seen quite a strong increase in terms of our revenue as well as penetration coming into mobile search. So, yeah.
Great. We're sort of out of time, so if we have time for maybe one more question, if there is any. If not, I'm just going to ask the panelists. No panel discussion is complete without asking the classic panel question, which is, what do you see happening in sort of a couple of lines? 5 years out, Malaysia, mobile. What is the landscape going to look like? Go for it.
So I think Steve will be back here doing another presentation in 5 years' time. And that figure of 9% will probably triple or go up by 4 times in 5 years' time. I think that will be the most significant thing.
I can see the tweets now coming furiously. That's a great data point to refer back to 5 years from now.
In 5 years' time, I think, pretty much we will do everything using our mobile. This will become our wallet.
Okay, this will become our wallet. Sure.
Definitely the growth, but I think partly the tablets, the growth of tablets would further,
increase that. Okay.
So.
Great. Well, with that, thank you. Please thank the panelists for the time that they've taken out.
Thank you.
And just on behalf of Google, a little small token of appreciation. Thank you so much.